two things happened just today that, again, I think are probably really big deals. Number one, it's looking that Tesla China is going to begin deliveries of these refresh Model Ys. The people who made the orders of them, they're going to start being delivered next week. When people started ordering them in China in first week or second week of January, they were told that cars won't be available till May, but now they're being delivered next week. The second story is that Elon had met with Prime Minister Modi of India last week, and then today they started officially hiring in India. So they've got 13 job openings for vehicle service, vehicle sales, customer support, and there's a report that they're going to be leasing showrooms. They're going to put showrooms in New Delhi and Mumbai. So it's looking like that Tesla's got approval or some sort of lower import duty from India to sell their cars into India. And if we remember from out, you got to get them delivered. You got to get that settled in every continent, in every gigafactory out there. And then that allows you to produce the smaller, more affordable vehicles that they've been promising, that they said in the earnings call, still on track. That is given more chance at this point that those are still on track as opposed to the other way around. If there was a delay in Model Y refresh being delivered, maybe there's going to be a delay in those other products. But at this point, it's looking like it's moving forward. So thoughts on these developments? What's going on with India? And of course, the other complicating factor here is how would China view this? And right now, China has not given Tesla permission to use FSD in China. Is this an indicator that maybe that those talks have slowed down, and so Tesla's going to try to use India as their negotiating tactic, or this is just next thing that they need to do is launch and go global? You want to start off? Yeah, go ahead, Alexandra.
Yes, sure. I mean, you have to understand we're currently in a global bargaining moment.
Yeah.
You've seen that with Vice President Vance in Europe and the whole drama that followed, and obviously you're seeing it with China trying to play their cards, Mexico, and I mean, it's just all over the place, right? And so India is very opportunistic in saying, look, open those showrooms, send us the cars from Berlin, because obviously no Chinese cars, no China-built Teslas. And then, that's a good first step. I'm not sure, and I really don't want to, give that impression that really means there is a next factory set up, acquired, whatever. I don't think we should, rush into that conclusion. But they are opportunistic, and they are making sure. And it was actually funny because Modi initially saw President Trump, and then he saw Elon with the whole family, kids, everything. And President Trump was asked afterwards, what happened there? Why did he go and see Elon? And President Trump correctly said, you know what, Elon is running companies, and India may have interest there. And it's none of my business, and Elon can do what he wants. I'm sure that's not to the liking of those journalists, but that's just the way life goes these days. So anyway, so I think we have to watch what's happening with all these trade deals, tariffs. India tries to come out on top of that. That's why they did the visit to the White House and then to Elon. It just shows yet again that Tesla is a token in this whole game now. Tesla is has become a political stock. This will, take some months, maybe even short years to be the case. We may very well profit from it, and it may be very well a very rough ride until then. So just know that if that's not to your liking, this may not be your stock for the moment, but it's just a fact. For me as a long-term investor, it doesn't matter at all. There will be Tesla sold in India, and this is the perfect moment to start slowly, because with the new models coming out in the next 3-4 months, cheaper models, India is a perfect market to deliver cars to. And Berlin is, with the expansion, capable of producing so much more that there's no doubt in my mind that we can fulfill that demand well in the next couple of months and early years, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Great points. Love it, Alexandra. Thank you. Anybody else want to jump in? Omar?
So on India, I mean, if you look at Tesla's current vehicle lineup and the price points they're at, it probably doesn't make a ton of sense for India. And that's why I think they've held back on entering. It sounds like Modi and him may have made some deal, so that's encouraging. But I think it's really going to be important as we get into these new, more affordable models. A smaller, more affordable vehicle built on the next gen platform, the same platform as the Cybercab, with the 48-volt architecture, the new battery architecture, and all the things that'll make it much lower cost. I think India starts to become a more important market as you get into those price categories. And really, we're talking about the most populated country on earth, one that has 1.4 billion people. It's certainly not at the place China is in terms of their EV market, but long term, I think it's going to be an important market as well. I don't think it has anything to do with China necessarily. I think it's just something that they've been meaning to do for a while. And maybe Modi, seeing Elon's position in the federal government, thought that it would be good to finally concede and make a deal, given Elon's political influence. In terms of the FSD license in China, it's not like the Chinese government has come out and say this. We're talking about a rumor here, but I'm highly confident that they're going to be able to secure the license they need to offer FSD supervised in China. Elon having a role in the White House probably only gives them more leverage, if anything else. And they're going to make sure that it gets approval. Otherwise, the White House will probably be bringing it up along with their other trade grievances and saying, well, why are you putting up these barriers that aren't allowing American companies to compete fairly? And they've signaled that they want to have FSD supervised in the country. They've already allowed Tesla to start testing around the Shanghai factory. So I'm confident that permit will come in before the end of the year or maybe even this quarter.
I got a question regarding that, but before we do that, did you misspeak or did you not misspeak when you said that the Cybercab will be built on the same platform as a Cybercab? That the more affordable vehicles for India will be built on the same platform as the Cybercab, which is not what they said. Do you know something that we don't?
What do you mean?
That's what I heard you just say.
I mean, they're making the Cybercab, which is based on their next gen platform, and they're also making more affordable vehicles on the same platform
It's not
that are going to be produced on the Model Y line.
Yeah, the same platform as the Model Y, not the Cybercab platform. Just wanted to clarify.
No.
Okay, good.
I mean, no, they said, in their earnings deck for the past 3 quarters, it's going to use the next gen platform or elements of it, along with the elements of the existing platform. So this is basically a vehicle that was designed on the next gen platform, but to move up the production, they decided to produce it on the Model Y line rather than produce it on the unboxed process. So they've been pretty clear about this.
Okay, no, that's fine. Well, I wanted to ask you guys this question. How likely do you guys think that China could negotiate with the US saying, hey, give us the ability to buy NVIDIA chips? Is it zero chance that the US will budge on that? When DeepSeek proved that doesn't matter if you have a law like that, they're going to find ways in the black market to find ways to get access to it anyways, because something needs to happen in order for, China's going to use whatever they can to negotiate in order to allow Tesla to, build supercomputer in. Tesla kind of wants to do it too. They want to build the supercomputer in China, and then use that data so they can do that. What is that zero chance, you guys?
Zero. We're in an AI arms race. No, zero.
Yeah, it's probably not going to change, although they are in negotiations. Maybe it could be one poker chip on the table. But I personally think that these export restrictions are not in the best interest of the US. I think it's in the interest of the US for Tesla to play a role globally in FSD rather than allowing Chinese companies to dominate. They've said, look, China doesn't want the data to leave, but the US doesn't want the chips to leave, so we're kind of stuck. I think at least Tesla should be given an exemption to allow them to do this type of thing and bring FSD to China more easily. Also for Nvidia, obviously it's lost revenue that they're getting. There's also a huge black market. People are smuggling the chips through the Middle East or through other countries, and they're still making it to China. And I think ultimately there's a long-term risk that if we make it difficult for them to buy American chips, they end up creating their own homegrown chips that end up killing the market for Nvidia and creating, huge long-term competition. So I would recommend the administration look at it. Maybe it is one of the poker chips they can use to get other concessions from China. But honestly, it would be a win for American companies if these restrictions were eased. One thing that I would propose is maybe limiting it to certain companies that are military affiliated or a special security risk. Whereas having, an American company like Tesla use them at Giga Shanghai shouldn't be an issue, in my opinion.
Yeah, I share that too. Do you have an opinion on this, Alexandra?
Sorry, I had my thing muted. No, I agree with Omar. I mean, like I said earlier when I started on that topic, this is a moment where it needs to fall in place. Europe is already giving in. Europe is lowering the incoming tariffs for American cars because they had huge tariffs on US cars. So I mean, knowing President Trump, there's so much just negotiation tactics and stuff thrown out and 50 different things per day. And I mean, I don't even remember what was last Wednesday, just because there's so much of it. So and it must be the same for all these countries who try to understand, because for the Chinese, the US market is enormous, right? If he really would close the US market of any consumer goods, including obviously car parts and solar panels and all that, it would make it a huge difference to China's economy, which is not in the best state anyway. So all this, I think, is a lot of noise. It has to settle. I don't think much higher tariffs will come out of it, except for countries that are playing hot and want to be punished. But I certainly don't think China is going to be the one. And coming back to that Financial Times article, which I posted on my feed, there was so much hearsay, and you just had the feeling that somebody wanted to destabilize this whole opinion on Tesla FSD in China. There were no material facts in there. Maybe all true, maybe just all hearsay and not true. So we have to learn to take these things apart and either ignore them or give it some value if they have some, but this one didn't have any.
Okay. Yeah, that was the article that was hinting that maybe FSD in China is being delayed. But at the same time, Alexandra, at the earnings call, Elon did say, right, we are not allowed to take the videos of the cars in there. Yeah. So, and
yeah, he explained that. And there are also restrictions actually in the US for Chinese cameras and data. So that is reciprocal. They're working around it. It seemed complicated, but not impossible. So they're working around it with, public maps, and he explained it in detail how it went. I don't remember all of it, but it's a pain in the butt. In the butt, there's no doubt.
Omar?
Yeah, I mean, it is obviously incredibly challenging when you're doing business at an international scale like this and trying to deploy a self-driving service in China and get government approval. So I think these people are sort of preying on some of this skepticism. But if there's anybody who can do it, it is probably Elon Musk. Obviously, when electric car company. That's been enormously successful for China. They've now become the world's biggest auto exporter because of the surge of EVs. Then just recently, I think it was Vietnam, where they had a rule that a foreign company could not own a satellite service in the country.
Yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, and they've now changed that, and Starlink is going to be made available in Vietnam. So this is the kind of person Musk is. I mean, he meets with more world leaders than the former president Joe Biden did, and he's meeting with people like Modi. I mean, he's in the White House working alongside the president as he negotiates peace deals and engages in international relations. If there's anybody who can get a license to deploy FSD in China, it's probably Tesla.
I agree with you. Hey, Sat, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, the political aspect of it makes it more complicated for the businesses, because the intention of use is also the issue. So it's not just about there's stuff going on in the U.S., there's stuff going on in China, but even on DeepSeek, if you question anything about civil rights related stuff, it's going to omit certain things. So if you're going to sell like the best chips to them and train that, that's going to help train that LLM. It's not gonna supporting something that's not gonna be really helpful. And when Elon's going into these situations that Omar just pointed out, he's creating more value for that country or that geographical location than whatever that law was intended for. So the fact that he was able to make Giga Shanghai, you build an entire supply chain and the ecosystem for EVs that they didn't have there, and a market leader. And so you benefit from that knowledge that's there, that's physically there. And Vietnam, it's like you can push that law and not have satellite internet and then be deprived of the internet. Is having internet for your whole country more beneficial or not having it, right? So it's more beneficial. So Elon offers more value when he's coming into your country and doing business.
Yeah, I think ultimately for the Chinese Communist Party, they're very much, even more than our government, ruling based on science and technology. I mean, this has been behind their EV push, and they want to be the world leader in AI, and they want actually self-driving cars, manufacturers like Tesla making millions of them for the market, for FSD supervised to be available, and for the cars there to be as advanced or more advanced than any other cars around the world. So I think Tesla has that on their side, that they actually want AI to proliferate in China. They want to have the Chinese economy be advanced and have products like this available. And that ultimately is why they're letting them do this, despite the fact that they're a foreign company. And it's worked out very well for them in EVs.
And it's the same thing with bots, right? They've made a huge push in becoming the leader in the bots, and they can see the exact same thing. If they let Tesla in to build bots in China, then they're using the same supply chain to create the same parts. Then all of a sudden they got their own bots and they want to go global. So let Tesla sell into China, but then let their bot companies succeed and become one of the leaders and sell globally, just like they're trying to do with their EVs. Same story. I think at the end of the day, China needs Tesla more than Tesla needs China, so I think it's going to happen. Oh, did we just lose Simon? I think we did. What do you guys think about then with the Model Y refreshed Model Y being produced and being already delivered next week? Are any signs, anything we're hearing about the new, more affordable vehicles? It seems to me that they're still on track. The weak rumors are still on track that it's going to happen in the next quarter. Anybody hear anything about that? Alexander, you have you're pretty close to this.
I'm sorry, I didn't listen. I had something else to do.
You're pretty close to the rumors about the new, more affordable vehicles. What have you been hearing?
Sorry, Herbert. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you for
Sorry.
saving me, Simon.
So, just the last point. I just wanted to put this out there that so put yourself in China's shoes for a second. Why did China wants to win in the EV space globally, and they are.
Yep.
And so they're doing, it was a great strategic move. So they have policies in place to protect their information, but they will make exceptions when they know that that will help them win, especially in the categories that they want to win. So why did they let Tesla come in and build a factory and own that factory? Well, they knew that they could learn from Tesla and be able to beat Japan and Germany in the EV space. But now they know, and we know, that it's not about EV, it's about AV, autonomous vehicles. And so, despite the fact that we see all these pieces coming out saying this company or another company is doing something, they're competing, we all know that Tesla is the absolute clear dominant winner in terms of autonomous vehicles. And they know this as well. So, yes, they're going to have policies not to export, but I have not thought for a second that they would prevent Tesla from, they'll put parameters on it to say, hey, we're abiding by these rules because we can't allow this technology to escape to another country. But they absolutely want it, and they will bend over backwards and do what they can to allow, and they're so much more acceptant of technology than the West. And so they're going to do everything they can to allow that to roll out. So I don't have a concern at all. Just like they allowed Tesla to roll out a factory like they've never done before, and they could own it. I don't think there's any issues with Tesla being able to operate FSD because they want this and they know, despite what we're seeing in the media about other companies being able to develop some kind of competition to it. So I just want to throw that out there that no, this is not an issue in China, and they will figure out a way to let Elon's company run this. But they do have hurdles, I would say, politically, to make sure that they do it in a proper fashion. That's all.
Mhm. Okay. So far, the panel members here, I think we're all thinking the same thing, that it's going to happen. It's more likely it will happen than not. All right, Alexandra, I was asking you, like, did you any little birds talking to you about rumors about when are the more
If you're insisting.
more
Okay,
affordable vehicles?
so let me
You don't
say
have to
it very
share if you don't have to share, but you can just
exactly. That's what's going to happen. I'm not going to share. I'm not going to run around with some rumors. Yes, I do hear some encouraging news from different sources. Are they reliable? I have no idea. So I don't think we should speculate on which model is coming out which week or which month. So no, I don't want to share what I hear. It gives me a lot of comfort what I hear. So maybe that's going to be helpful.
Yeah, and I just think that the best sign right now is that the Model Y is being delivered next week in China, and then once they get that kind of ironed out, they scale that out, then that opens it up and allows them to.
I agree. I looked yesterday into the Model Y because I contemplating whether I want one, and ran through the different options, and it gave me a delivery date in March. So
here in the U.S. Wow.
Here in the U.S. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Ah, my gosh. See,
And that's not
they're
a
doing
rumor.
globally.
You can all try and do it.
Yeah, and what was the news on Europe, right? Didn't the same thing, right? That's
Oh yeah, they're in Europe. They're building
delivering
it and starting to deliver it. And you actually have articles in the German press that are very explicit about delivery dates.
Yeah, so that's a good news globally happening, if not next week, a couple weeks from now. That gets going, and then that lets them, produce the next more affordable vehicles. Yeah, I think the only credible, I guess, somewhat credible thing is some people are saying, well, if they really were going to release these new, more affordable vehicles, we should have seen spy shots by now. Nobody here thinks that that's true.
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
it is an interesting thought. If they're about to start production of new, more affordable vehicles, where are they? I think that's kind of the thing. Even though they've written it on the last 3 earnings releases, people are still having a hard time believing it. Tesla's never launched a vehicle this way. So it's hard to find a kind of parallel in their history. Maybe they do have something and they've just been keeping it a secret. Sawyer thinks that maybe it's just a lower end version of the Model 3 or Y. But when you read that sentence in the earnings deck that they've kind of copy and pasted for the last 3 quarters, it doesn't sound to me like it's just a Model Y. They say, we're taking elements of the next gen platform, making it on the current production line to bring it up faster. But they say, it'll be built on the same production line as our current vehicle lineup. So if it was the Model Y, it would be a little redundant. So the Model Y is going to be produced on the same line as our current vehicle lineup. Well, of course it would. It's one of the current vehicles. So it sounds to me like they're really saying that they've got something new here. And we've never seen them keep a vehicle a secret like this before. But if they're really gearing up to launch it in the middle of the year, this work they're doing with the new Model Y is the common denominator of every factory. Every factory has a Model Y line. And they're talking about building it on the same production line. As they're gearing up to produce this new Model Y, they must also be gearing up to produce whatever this new vehicle is as well, whether it's just a low-end variant or something else entirely.
Wow, that's very good. I'm glad to hear your comments on there. That you were going to say something?
Well, I mean, the Cybercab is supposed to be on the same platform, so I mean, they could be using Cybercab too, right?
Wait, no. So again, what do you mean? Because I was trying to get Omar to explain what he meant because you're confusing me. It's not the same platform.
Well, it is the same platform.
It's components of the unboxed models, what they said, but it's not the same platform as the Cybercab platform.
Well, it is. I mean, I think it's going to be the same motors, the same battery, the same drivetrain. They're going to ramp it up through this new vehicle. So if you really go back to the Tesla Investor Day presentation, you can find this on YouTube. On Tesla Investor Day, they talked about a number of changes they were making for a new lower cost platform that they said they hope would cut the cost in half of their platform. So, if the Model 3 and Y platform is $36,000, this would be $18,000, and you could sell a vehicle for maybe $25,000. So that vehicle is really the Cybercab. It's built on the unbox process. And they went through all the new things about this. They went through these motors that don't use any rare earth metals. And they have a new design for this. A new battery pack architecture that can use any different chemistry, moving to 48 volt so that they could cut down on the wiring needed in the car. All of these various innovations. So they're bringing it in on the Cybercab, and that's going to be priced at around $25,000. Elon said in one of the earnings call, they also mentioned, I think, 30,000 at the reveal, but somewhere in that area. That'll be built using the full unbox process. But I think there was another vehicle besides the Cybercab, which has no steering wheel and pedals. I think there's one that's designed to be driven. And this would be a huge product in Europe. It would be huge in Asia. I think it would also sell pretty well in the United States, just as an entry-level Tesla product. And you could essentially take the same motors, take the same drivetrain, and make a vehicle, that you priced maybe in the $30,000 range. If the EV tax credit still existed, this could be a car that, people could take home for 25K. And it would just be sort of smaller than a Model Y, but hopefully still have everything we love about a Tesla, great range, which you can do with a smaller battery if the car's smaller, FSD, etc., Tesla software. And that's what I think they really should do. Now, what exactly they're doing, I don't know. They've been incredibly tight-lipped. They've been cracking down on leaks like crazy. But it won't be long now before we find out what exactly they're talking about, because the first half of 2025 is here. And that's when they said they're starting production.
And I think you guys are right. I mean, I think it's using the right terminology. So they're going to use components of the unbox model. That's the platform. But the production line, they'll use that. You don't need a production line if you're doing the full unbox model. So I get it. I get what you're saying now, that you're going to use basically the parts, more likely or not, it's going to come from the same parts of the Cybercab they're going to use for that. Makes sense, right? That's how they're going to keep the cost down, make it lower price, mass
Basically,
produce everything.
using the unbox process would have pushed it out 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
And they said, we don't have 12 to 18 months. So what if we just made it on the Model Y line? Well, if we just made it on the Model Y line, we're not going to be able to get the cost as low. So we're not going to hit 25K, which is what they said on the deck. But could we get in the 30 to 35K range? Sure. And I think that's what they're going to do, produce it on the Model Y line in all their factories. And they mentioned about 3 million deliveries as what they thought they could get to without expanding into any new factories. They said, look, we think with this vehicle, we can get up to 3 million units. So I think some of that growth will be Model 3 and Y, but probably the bulk of it would be this new vehicle. And you remember when sort of BYD was rising up, when people were growing, people were really saying, we really need this lower cost Tesla vehicle. BYD's had so much success in this segment. They really need this in China. And I think that was really behind the decision to kind of move it up and produce something on the Y line. But what exactly that is, you know, we're still debating it, and they're being very tight-lipped.
Okay, that's good. I learned a lot. Appreciate this so much, guys. Okay, well, great conversation. Appreciate you, Omar, Alexandra, Sat, Simon.
Can I add one last thing, please, Herbert?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I did my quarterly financial strength table today. I just published it a couple of hours ago. It's pinned to my X feed. So this is relative to the 29 other mega caps in the world, and to 10 car companies that are rated by S&P and Moody's, because remember, I did that initially to shame the rating agencies into upgrading the credit ratings of Tesla. So they're not all, for example, BYD is not there because it's not rated yet. But if anybody wants, information on others that are not rated, I can obviously provide that. But the big point is that while last quarter, meaning end of September 2024, we had a very good financial situation, but it was weaker. It got subsequently weaker over the different quarters in 2024. By December, it was extremely better. So the financial strength of Tesla's balance sheet is as good as it comes in the world. There is nothing as good, as consistently good in all categories, and it is really in the top 3 for all categories. So I think that just needs to be pointed out again and again, because this is a pool of investors that can choose whether they go into Nvidia, or whether they go into Apple, or whether they go into GM, or whatever they want to do. If they look at financial strength, there is only one winner there, and there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I love that you did that, because you compared it against the Mag 7, right? That's Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft. And then you add it to the Mag 29, and then you also have a separate section, which is the car companies. And the car companies are all yellows and orange and red, like a couple green boxes. The rest are all terrible. But it's
there's no doubt that they're in a
but I like
higher
that
financial situation. And actually, what was surprising is at what point the German car makers have now higher market caps again than GM and Ford. GM and Ford lost a lot of market capitalization in the last quarter of 2024. Because I ranged them from highest market cap to lowest in the 2 categories.
Gotcha. Thank you for doing that. That's important, and it's a lot of work. I know you're doing that, but it's like people don't realize how strong financially Tesla is. This is a great way to compare that.
And if I want to add one more, and I know you're all fed up talking about Delaware, but there is some good stuff. I know me
Yeah,
too.
no, there's this thing, isn't it? There's some lawyer law firm that's now...
Exactly.
Okay, go ahead and explain that, because that's a big deal.
This is not Tesla's law firm. I don't know how people got that misunderstanding, but this is not Tesla's law firm. This is the biggest Delaware law firm that made a law proposal, and that has been supported. And I mean, obviously, this was, the politicians of Delaware intervening, saying, please bring this forward. It was not just them having this wonderful idea. So they have 2 proposals that have to go through the Delaware Senate and the Delaware House, and then have to be signed into law by the Delaware governor. And so there's still some leadway to go. One is number 17 and one is number 21. Just keep that in mind, because you'll hear a lot about it. So one is about limiting attorney fees in Delaware, and I think that's going to make a huge difference, because if it's not as juicy anymore to milk the Chancery Court, sorry to say it that way, but that may actually distract some lawyers to do other things than just bring stupid law cases in front of the judges. The second one is about what is a controlling entity, because probably the most valid, not in my views, but in her views, the most valid point of Chancellor McCormick was that Elon was a controlling party, that he had influence over the other board members when it came to negotiating his package. And so this whole notion of controlling party is very complicated, because if she would stand, if this judgment would stand, it would really discourage any founder to launch a company, because for a very long time you would be considered a controlling party, and everything that comes from it. So this proposal 21 is rectifying what could be a controlling party and what is not, so giving actually less voice to individual shareholders, which I think is a good thing. We don't need a voice. We certainly don't need then idiots with 9 shares or 135 shares now to have a voice. So I think both of those proposals are very interesting, and we're going to follow up whether they go quickly through, and they could have an influence, even if it's only marginal, on the Tonetta Supreme Court appeal, but they certainly will have an influence on the other 4 cases that we still have pending in Delaware: the Donald Ball case, which is now going into summary judgment, the Cleveland Bakers and Teamsters Pension Fund, the Employee Retirement System of Rhode Island, and the Perry. So there are 4 cases still hanging around, and if these two proposals go through the legislature quickly and are signed in law by the governor quickly, that could give us some good help
to reinstate his package in 2018.
Well, to reinstate his package to Tonetta, but also to win these other 4 cases, because especially the Rhode Island one is a real consequential one. Could be more consequential than Tonetta. So the 4 cases that are still outstanding are bitter pills. And the fact that she currently has all 4 under her judgment is because there's currently a rule in Delaware that the chancellor decides what cases she wants, and then it goes to one of the 7 vice chancellors. So actually each judge decides on which case they want. And just yesterday, I think it happened that the vice chancellor, Travis Lester, who is also same motivations than Chancellor McCormick, he's the one that had that TripAdvisor case that then, thank heavens, got overturned in the Supreme Court last week. But anyway, so he just lost a case, meaning he had attributed to himself a case, and that case now suddenly became attributed to another judge. So there are things happening in Delaware, and one of them may be that she's not having all the 4 next cases that we still have outstanding there under her supervision, but all that is going to happen and fold out in the next coming days and weeks.
Okay. Thank you for the update, Alexandra. This is important, the big ones. Good. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Omar. Thanks, Sat and Simon. Thanks, everybody.
See you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.